I have mentioned is not not good. It's impossible to answer. Could you please explain more regarding Northern tradition, in brackets, Tian Tai, meditation and the connection between North and South tradition? We would need many, many evenings to this explain in 1 minute. It is, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes is very difficult. The Northern tradition and Southern tradition is just a name to avoid this unpleasant distinction between Hinayana and Mahayana. The Hinayana means a small vehicle and Mahayana means a big vehicle. Actually, this distinction has brought many, many misunderstandings into Buddhism, and as the Chinese scholars, intelligent Chinese scholars, like Tai Shi, Tashe, and Yin Shun Fashe, and so on, they have seen very clearly that the only chance for Buddhism is that the Buddhists again start to understand themselves, that they are actually practicing the same teachings, only the explanation is different. So when you call someone a small vehicle, of course he will not like it. When you put yourself above someone, it is also nonsense. So the Northern Buddhism and Southern Buddhism actually is not a precise word at all, because the Northern Buddhism has also the so-called Hinayana tradition, and it is based on that tradition. But it is a Sarvastivada mostly tradition. So the Sarvastivada and Theravada, they are actually quite different. The Mahayana, as we know it, is mostly concerned with the Sarvastivada tradition. They did not study the Theravada tradition. Or they have very unprecise idea of the Theravada, because the Theravada, in the time when Mahayana was becoming important, already did not have influence in India, and Buddhism came to China mostly through the Sarvastivada and Mahayana. Finally, the Mahayana became more important. So the Northern tradition is more concerned with the Mahayana, or Mahayana means the path of the Bodhisattva, as compared to Hinayana, which is called the path of the Arahat. Actually, these two paths were not clearly distinguished in the early stages of Mahayana also. The Mahayana was taught, the Mahayana ideas, the transcendental wisdom was taught to the disciples, and it is concerned with deeper understanding, and it came because, quite naturally, because the Abhidharma traditions divided Buddhism into many, many schools. And each school has its own Abhidharma explaining the different rupas and namas, different mental factors, and different corporeality forms as being the ultimate realities. So how can you have so many different ultimate realities? And they started quarreling with each other. If they are 47 mental factors, or 52 mental factors, or 51 mental factors, which one is true? So then naturally the Mahayana had to appear, claiming that the ultimate reality is only one, which is emptiness. And the this understanding of emptiness then is then inseparably related in the Northern tradition with the practice of Samatha and Vipassana. We will talk about it maybe in future. You said that we need to practice meditation until it becomes our habit. Habit is what we doing automatically. Not really. Old one, huh? Oh, okay. Someone put it in. Maybe by mistake I removed some papers which have not been answered and put some papers which have already been answered among those that have not been answered. I'm not sure. Venerable Dhammadipa, when watching the lens of the breath, does one also have to identify it is in breath or out breath? Depends what one means by identification. One does, at that moment, one does not think. The identifying is usually labeling something. You don't label it, you just observe it mindfully, so you don't need to think it is in breath or out breath. If you start thinking, aha, it is in breath, aha, it is out breath, you will never get into deep concentration. Impossible. What do you mean?
Identifying the in and out breath. Maybe it's helpful when you're first starting out.
Yes, sure. It is helpful, but depends what you call identification. Identification, actually you practice meditation not to identify with anything. You just observe. Identification by implication means that some kind of clinging.
But do you have to be aware of whether it's in-breath or out-breath?
Yes. Normally you are aware of it, but in the state of deep concentration, as explained in the scriptures, the Anapana nimitta, the place where you experience the breath, and in-breath and out-breath, even so they are not they are not perceived with the same mind, they become perceived by the same mind. Because you are the object, is the concept of the breath.
So you have to say, where is a long out breath and this is a short in breath.
In the beginning, but finally if you get into deep concentration, you never think in breath, out breath, you just see one continuity.
You don't care whether it's in breath or out breath, you say, okay, this is long, this is short, it's long, it's short, is that right?
That is in the beginning. In order to let the mind stay spontaneously on the breath, you are investigating whether it is long or short. But when you get better concentration, you're just aware of the whole body of the breath. And you aware of the whole body of the mind watching the breath, and you aware of the whole body connected with the breath. Then they merge together and you can go into the deeper state of concentration. So you actually perceive the in-breath, out-breath as one process. You don't separate them anymore.
What about you saying like you have to note the start, the middle, and the end of the breath? What do you mean by this? Is that you take a note of the length, or you just be aware of the whole stretch of
The presence of the mind on the object will not be established unless you have the clear vision of the object. That's a skillful means for making the object clear in the mind, that you are aware if it is the beginning of the breath, middle of the breath, or end of the breath. Otherwise, how will you make the object clear in the mind unless you investigate it? You have to investigate the object to make it clear object in the mind. When it becomes a clear object, then the mind stays there. If it is not a clear object, it will go away. Is it clear? The Samatha and Vipassana can only happen on clear objects. It does not happen on unclear objects. When the objects are not clear, the mind cannot be clear. And how you will make the object clear? By investigating it. So the key to the process of studying shamatha and vipassana is the vitarka and vichara, shinsu. If you don't shinsu, if you don't apply and sustain your thought on the meditation object, your meditation object will not be clear. Then you never enter into shamatha vipassana. And how will you sustain your mind? By applying it continually to the object. How will you apply continually to the object? By investigating it more and more in a more and more subtle way. Then the object will appear very clearly. Then you go into deeper concentration. Don't be confused. Sorry, I can't get your meaning.
The skanda, this is my perception of it, and I'm asking you.
Skanda, you are not now working with vipassana.
So my point about this breathing thing is the aspect of mind that would even begin to name or label, it's very quiet. And so the reason why that naming stops is because that part of the mind that actually does the naming gets quiet, and the other skandhas that recognize form
So what do you call skandha?
The 5 aggregates. So the tone of them, whereas Sankhya would normally be very prominent.
Still, I don't get the meaning. What are you talking about?
When you're talking about when the mind gets very subtle
Yes?
with the breath, and his question was about, do you keep naming it? And her point had been, maybe at the beginning we name it, and then as
Yeah, this is a beginning. This is a beginning, counting or just telling yourself in breath, out breath, to let the mind stay on the object. But this is very gross perception.
right, and I think what I'm just adding here, my perception of it, or my sense of it, is that that skandha that would name
Skandha does not name.
aspect of
Well, how can skandha name?
there are 5 aggregates forming mind.
5 aggregates don't form the mind. The 4 aggregates form.
Forming the personality, and there are these actions of mind, one that can discern, one that is the rupa khandha. These actually become apparent in meditation as actions.
But how can Rupa Khandha discern anything? It does not discern.
I'm not saying that's the one that becomes active. I'm saying the one that names in breath, out breath, the thing that names.
The breath is a Rupa Khandha, nothing else. The breath cannot name itself. How can?
I have not said that.
Huh?
That's not what I've said. But that's okay. Let's move on.
The 5 skandhas cannot name themselves. The skandha, the Rupa skandha is a breath, and it is being observed by the Nama Khandha. The Nama Khandha is that which bends to the breath. So that's why this confusion, how can the skandhas observe the breath?
All I'm saying is, to your point that the brain or the mind becomes more subtle, the aspect that says, this is a smell, this is a sight, or this is in-breath, this is out-breath, the thing that says, this is in-breath, this is out-breath, that portion drops away, so that there's not the name. There's not, that's all I'm saying. And that comes from an area of the brain that, or a part of the mind.
What is the question then?
Adding some stuff. As she said, should we just name for beginners? And he was asking a question about naming.
Oh, I'm a bit not
I think
quite.
she just try to explain why, when you look at, when you go deeper, you actually just observe it. It's just there. There's no words in there. And she explained, say, why
Okay,
there's no words,
okay.
because that mental function
Okay,
is
okay.
way that way. Yeah, that's why she
Okay, that's clear, yeah. Okay, no problem. So in the beginning you have to count the breath or bring it somehow to the mind. When it stays in the mind, then the language becomes nuisance, of course. That's clear. But I think she understands it, that's all right, no? What is momentary concentration, khanika samadhi? Is it what they call as vipassana jhana? It is precisely that. Because it focuses on changing objects, how does it fit into the classical definition of samadhi that takes only one object? No, it does not fit into there. It is right. So what is the problem? They are, in the Abhidharma, explained as the Samma Samadhi, the correct Samadhi in Abhidharma is explained as 8 Samapatis. It is not mentioned. So no problem. But actually there is also Upachara Samadhi, proximate Samadhi, and there is also Khanika Samadhi, which is Vipassana Samadhi. They are also Samadhi. Jhana means upanijhana. Please do not be mistaken. Upanijana, upa means near, ni is emphatic. Nijana means jhayati, dhyayati means to think. So it means thinking emphatically about the object from the near. So in this, according to that definition, even the Kanika Samadhi and the Upachara Samadhi is also dhyana. But it is not a full dhyana. Full dhyana is called apana. Apana is a synonym of, strangely enough, is a synonym of vitaka, applied thought. In deeper conditions of samadhi, the applied thought go away. But yet the full samadhi is called according to applied thought, because without continuous application of the thought to the object, the mind will not be able to perceive the object clearly. And that is a meaning. And it will not be able to merge with the object. So it is in a way this terminology of yoga is sometimes very intriguing. You should not apply it mechanically. One should understand it. The dhyana actually is from the root dhya, which means just thinking. But in dhyana you do not think at all. But how to call it? It is still kind of thinking. It is not thinking in words. Applied thought is the base for words. We cannot use language without applied thought. Applied thought, vitaka, is defined in the Northern Abhidharma as the will and differentiation together. You have to have will and differentiation to bring your mind to the object continually. Only when the mind is brought to the object continually, the object becomes clear, becomes grasped clearly. When the object is grasped clearly, then you can also call it a state of dhyana. But it does not need to be with thinking. But it is still applying thought to the object. Then in the state, in the beginning of learning the shamatha, you need to bring the mind to the object. You need like two oars. The one is will and another is applied thought. According to Abhidharma, these two oars are bringing the mind to the object. But when in a deeper state of concentration, you don't need applied thought to bring mind to the object anymore. It stays there. So all you need is just will. Don't need the help of applied thought. Why? Because the mind becomes very subtle, and that force is a rather rough force. When you have attained the samadhi, you can see it yourself that this force is very rough. It disturbs the peace of the mind, so the mind drops it. So this process of learning shamatha is a process of learning by increased sensitivity. You are more and more aware of the troublesome nature of all applied thought, sustained thought, all feelings, and finally of even the in-breath and out-breath. So even that will be dropped. So let us finish here and we leave this for tomorrow.